Have you ever wondered why some of the kindest, most compassionate people always seem to carry the heaviest emotional burdens? What if one of the biggest beliefs about empaths, the idea that they were born to heal everyone around them, isn't the truth at all? For years, countless people have been told that their purpose is to absorb pain, rescue broken souls, and sacrifice their own peace so others can find theirs. It sounds noble, it sounds meaningful. But what if that belief has quietly trapped thousands of empaths in cycles of exhaustion, disappointment, and emotional burnout? The truth is far more surprising than most people realize. While empaths naturally sense emotions more deeply than others, that doesn't automatically make them responsible for fixing every wounded heart they encounter. Yet many spend years believing that every struggling friend, every toxic relationship, and every emotionally unavailable partner is somehow their responsibility. They convince themselves that if they just love harder, give more, or remain patient a little longer, everything will eventually change. But life often tells a different story. Psychologists have long observed that highly empathetic people are more likely to prioritize the emotional needs of others over their own. They often ignore warning signs, suppress their own feelings, and mistake self-sacrifice for compassion. Over time, this pattern can leave them emotionally drained, without ever creating the lasting change they hoped for. One little-known reality is that people who constantly try to rescue others can unintentionally encourage unhealthy dependence rather than genuine healing. It's a painful paradox that many empaths never recognize until years have passed. Perhaps you've experienced this yourself. Maybe you've stood beside people through their darkest moments, offered endless understanding, forgiven mistakes that others never would, and still found yourself feeling invisible, unappreciated, or emotionally empty. If so, you're not alone. There is a reason this pattern repeats, and it has far less to do with kindness than most people think. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. What if empaths were never meant to become emotional healers for everyone they meet? What if their greatest strength has been misunderstood from the very beginning? And what if discovering the real purpose of empathy could completely transform the way you see yourself, your relationships, and your future? In this video, you'll uncover the hidden myths surrounding empaths, learn why so many compassionate people become trapped in the role of the rescuer, discover what psychology reveals about emotional boundaries, and explore the deeper purpose that many people overlook. Most importantly, you'll understand why protecting your own emotional well-being isn't selfish, it's essential. Be sure to stay with us until the very end, because the final lesson may completely change the way you think about empathy forever and help you break free from beliefs that have quietly shaped your life for years. Welcome to Dr. Empath Psychology Hub, where we explore the fascinating world of empathy, emotional intelligence, psychology, and personal growth. If you're ready to discover the truth behind the empath's journey and learn how to build healthier, stronger, and more balanced relationships, make sure to subscribe to our channel and join our growing community. Let's begin. Many people use the word empath to describe someone who is exceptionally caring, but the reality is much more complex. From a psychological perspective, an empath is often understood as a person with an unusually high level of emotional awareness. They are highly attuned to the feelings, moods, and subtle emotional cues of the people around them. While empathy itself is a normal human ability, some individuals experience it with far greater intensity. They can sense tension in a room before anyone speaks, recognize sadness hidden behind a smile, or notice emotional shifts that others completely overlook. This heightened awareness allows them to connect with people on a deeply personal level. Because of this sensitivity, empaths are naturally compassionate. They don't simply hear about another person's struggles. They often feel emotionally affected by them. When someone is grieving, anxious, or overwhelmed, an empath may find themselves carrying a portion of that emotional weight without even realizing it. Their instinct is to comfort, encourage, and support because seeing another person suffer genuinely affects them. This makes them trusted friends, loyal partners, and patient listeners who often create safe spaces for others to express emotions without fear of judgment. However, emotional awareness is not the same as emotional responsibility. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of being an empath. Understanding another person's pain does not mean you are responsible for removing it. Recognizing someone's wounds does not mean you must sacrifice your own peace to heal them. Every individual has their own emotional journey, their own choices, and their own responsibility for growth. An empath can offer kindness, guidance, and compassion, but they cannot make someone change, overcome destructive habits, or choose healing against their will. Unfortunately, many empaths blur this line. Because they feel so deeply, they begin believing that love alone can fix broken relationships or transform people who refuse to help themselves. They mistake compassion for obligation, giving more and more of themselves while expecting that enough patience will eventually create change. Instead of asking whether someone is willing to grow, they focus entirely on how much more they can give. Over time, this mindset quietly shifts empathy from a beautiful strength into an exhausting burden, making healthy emotional boundaries increasingly difficult to recognize. For many empaths, the desire to help begins with genuine compassion, but over time, it can quietly become a heavy emotional burden. Instead of simply offering support, they start absorbing the pain of the people around them. They listen for hours, comfort others during difficult times, and place someone else's emotional well-being above their own. While these actions often come from kindness, they can slowly create a pattern where the empath's own needs are pushed aside. Their stress, sadness, and exhaustion remain unspoken because they are so focused on making sure everyone else is okay. Eventually, they may lose touch with their own emotions, unable to recognize just how much they have been carrying. Guilt often keeps this cycle alive. Many empaths feel guilty for saying no, taking time for themselves, or creating distance from people who constantly depend on them. They fear being seen as selfish or uncaring, so they continue giving even when they have nothing left to offer. This people-pleasing behavior becomes a habit rather than a choice. Instead of setting healthy limits, they accept unreasonable expectations, hoping their sacrifices will strengthen relationships or inspire others to change. Unfortunately, weak boundaries rarely earn respect. Instead, they often invite more emotional demands, leaving the empath feeling increasingly overwhelmed. As this pattern continues, emotional exhaustion becomes almost unavoidable. The empath begins carrying worries that do not belong to them, solving problems they did not create, and feeling responsible for emotions they cannot control. Their own peace slowly disappears beneath the constant pressure of being available for everyone else. What once felt like compassion starts feeling like obligation, making every interaction emotionally draining. Constantly rescuing others also changes the balance of relationships. Instead of encouraging mutual support, it creates a dynamic where one person is always giving while the other is always receiving. Some people become dependent on the empath's endless patience, expecting comfort without taking responsibility for their own growth. Others may even take that kindness for granted, assuming the empath will always forgive, always understand, and always return. In these relationships, genuine connection is replaced by emotional dependence, making it increasingly difficult for either person to develop healthier patterns or lasting emotional independence. One of the most difficult truths an empath can accept is that no amount of love, patience, or sacrifice can change a person who has no desire to change. Lasting healing is not something that can be given from the outside. It begins within the individual, through a genuine willingness to face painful truths, acknowledge harmful patterns, and take consistent steps toward growth. Advice can be offered, encouragement can be shared, and support can be available, but none of these things can replace a person's own decision to heal. Without that decision, even the greatest acts of kindness often have little lasting effect. This reality can be especially painful for empaths because they naturally believe in the potential they see in others. They often focus on who someone could become instead of who that person is choosing to be in the present. They may stay in unhealthy relationships, convinced that enough understanding will eventually inspire change. They overlook repeated disappointments because they hope that one more conversation, one more chance, or one more act of compassion will finally make a difference. While hope is a powerful quality, it cannot do the work that another person refuses to do for themselves. An empath can provide a safe place to talk, offer comfort during difficult moments, and remind someone that they are not alone. These are meaningful gifts, but they are not the same as healing another person's emotional wounds. Real healing requires honesty, accountability, and the courage to make different choices day after day. If someone continues to blame others, reject responsibility, or repeat the same destructive behaviors, no outside support can force lasting transformation. Understanding this difference allows empaths to protect both their compassion and their peace. Instead of measuring their worth by how much they can fix, they begin recognizing that every person is responsible for their own emotional journey. Growth becomes a personal commitment rather than a burden carried by someone else. By accepting that responsibility belongs to the individual, empaths free themselves from impossible expectations and begin building relationships based on mutual effort, shared accountability, and respect for each person's role in the process of emotional growth. Everything begins to change the moment an empath realizes that choosing themselves is not an act of selfishness, but an act of survival. For so long, many empaths believe their value comes from how much they can give, how much they can endure, or how many people they can help. They become so accustomed to putting others first that they hardly notice their own emotional reserves running empty. But there comes a point when they recognize that constantly sacrificing their peace is not kindness, it is self-neglect. This realization marks the beginning of a healthier way of living, one built on balance rather than endless self-sacrifice. One of the most powerful changes an empath can make is learning to set clear boundaries. Boundaries are not walls designed to keep people out. They are healthy limits that protect emotional well-being. They allow an empath to offer compassion without becoming consumed by another person's struggles. Instead of feeling obligated to solve every problem or respond to every emotional demand, they begin making thoughtful choices about where to invest their time and energy. Saying no longer feels like rejection. It becomes a way of saying yes to their own mental and emotional health. Protecting emotional energy also creates space for self-care. Rather than constantly reacting to the needs of others, empaths start paying attention to their own feelings, rest, personal goals, and inner peace. They discover the value of quiet moments, meaningful hobbies, healthy routines, and relationships that offer mutual support instead of one-sided dependence. As they recharge emotionally, they become more resilient, more confident, and better equipped to face life's challenges without feeling overwhelmed by every emotion around them. Perhaps the greatest transformation comes through self-respect. When empaths recognize their own worth, they stop accepting relationships built on manipulation, guilt, or emotional imbalance. They no longer believe they must earn love by overgiving or prove their kindness through endless sacrifice. Instead, they begin surrounding themselves with people who appreciate honesty, respect boundaries, and contribute equally to the relationship. This shift creates stronger connections based on trust and mutual care rather than obligation. As self-respect grows, so does inner peace, allowing empaths to express compassion freely while remaining grounded, emotionally secure, and true to themselves without losing their identity in the lives of others. As we've explored throughout this video, one of the greatest misconceptions about empaths is the belief that they were born to heal everyone they meet. While empaths possess extraordinary compassion, emotional awareness, and the ability to understand others on a deep level, their true purpose has never been to carry the weight of every broken heart. They were not meant to lose themselves in the pain of others, or sacrifice their own well-being in the hope of saving people who are unwilling to change. Their greatest strength lies in living authentically with kindness, wisdom, and emotional balance. True empathy does not require self-sacrifice. It means offering support without abandoning yourself, showing compassion without accepting mistreatment, and caring deeply while recognizing that every person is responsible for their own healing journey. The moment an empath understands this, everything begins to change. Guilt is replaced with confidence, exhaustion gives way to peace, and relationships become healthier because they are built on mutual respect instead of emotional dependence. Choosing healthy boundaries is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of self-respect. Protecting your emotional energy allows you to remain compassionate without becoming overwhelmed. It gives you the freedom to love others without losing your own identity, and to help when it is truly meaningful, rather than out of obligation. The strongest empaths are not those who give until they have nothing left. They are the ones who understand that caring for themselves allows them to care for others in a healthier and more genuine way. So, if you've spent years believing that your worth depends on how many people you can rescue, let today be the day you let go of that burden. Choose balance over burnout. Choose wisdom over guilt. Choose healthy boundaries over endless sacrifice. Most importantly, choose emotional freedom, because your life has value beyond the problems you solve for others. If you found this video meaningful and it helped you see empathy from a new perspective, please give this video a like and subscribe to Dr. Empath Psychology Hub. Your support helps us continue creating thoughtful content about psychology, emotional intelligence, and personal growth. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.